Everyone, I have huge news. Mevin Feige, Kevin Feige's twin brother, just gave me a top secret report on who's dying next in the MCU. You ready? It says, Tony Stark. Wait a second. Okay, this file is a little outdated. I mean, it still lists John Krasinski as the top pick to play Captain America. Yeah, this is all wrong. So forget this file. Let's instead do some sleuthing ourselves and talk about which characters are definitely going to join Iron Man in that big metal scrapyard in the sky and not make it out of Phase 4 alive. Let's get into it right now. Alright, I understand that there's only so much heartbreak a person can take in one lifetime. And I know the pain of watching Peter Parker tell Tony Stark he was sorry and how he didn't want to go as he turned to dust, nearly shattered us all into a million little pieces. So I'm sorry to add on to that emotional turmoil, but Spider-Man isn't making it out of Phase 4 alive. And yeah, I hear you from across the screens. You're asking yourselves, how much of Bruce Banner's blood am I mixing in with my milkshakes to sound this crazy? Wow. But at least consider the possibility for a second. There might not be a great in-universe reason for Spidey to get squashed like a bug, but it makes sense on a technical level. I just don't know how this Sony and Disney partnership can last long term. Maybe I'm still skeptical ever since that crazy month when Spider-Man was set to be written out of the MCU altogether to be a part of the Sonyverse. That fear is hard to shake, so I could see a situation where the business side of things deteriorates so much that the MCU kills off their version of Peter Parker, and voila! A new version of Peter Parker, also played by Tom Holland, shows up in the Sonyverse. Plus, with all the multiverse shenanigans going on, the MCU can just replace the character with Miles Morales or even Tobey Maguire. Crazy? Absolutely, but I'm just being cautious. Is Cap's best friend Bucky gonna bite it in Phase 4? I think there's a good chance. Mostly because I don't see where Bucky's story could logically go in the future now that he was passed over for Captain America. Which is something I'm still salty about, by the way. Like, I love Sam, but the idea of Bucky becoming Captain America would have been so fitting. It would have brought his story full circle as he truly regained his patriotic nature after being captured by Hydra and been the ultimate symbol of how he was making up for the sins of his past. Plus, no offense to Sam, but Bucky is also a super soldier and can move around much like Steve Rogers could. The trailers for Falcon and Winter Soldier make it seem like Sam's gotten a strength upgrade. But still, that was an unnecessary step as Bucky both deserved the title more and already had the powers in place. So now that he's not the new Cap, I think the next greatest thing he can do to fully prove what a hero he is now and clear the red in his ledger, as Black Widow likes to say, is to sacrifice himself at the end of his show. Sorry, Buck, you can't do this all day. Hawkeye has escaped death so many times that I basically call him Loki Jr. behind his back. Don't tell him I said that though, because I've seen what Ronan can do. Anyways, we all probably know that after the Avengers, Jeremy Renner asked to be killed off because he wasn't happy with how the character was basically sidelined as a zombie lackey for most of the first big team-up. Then in Age of Ultron, the whole movie seemed to be hinting at that Hawkeye death, with foreshadowing of how Clint was the true heart of the team, the introduction of a secret family, etc. But the movie very quickly swerved and had an Aaron Taylor Johnson looking Quicksilver, I have to make that distinction now, sacrifice himself for Hawkeye. Then, when we thought he had won out over Black Widow in Endgame, Natasha was able to fling herself off the cliff much faster than Clint. Gosh, that's a lot of close calls. If I was Death, I'd be banging my head with impatience. But it makes sense. With his Hawkeye TV show on the horizon where he's passing the bow to Kate Bishop, that's like prime setup for his death. And sure, the MCU, I guess, could let Clint have a happy ending. But at this point, it seems like death is inevitable for him.
You didn't see that coming?
Look, it's a process of elimination. Not all Guardians of the Galaxy can make it out alive for the third film. James Gunn has kind of hinted at how there will be tragedy and how the team is going to look different at the end of the trilogy.
Look out!
So the one who is most likely to die of that group is Drax. It won't be Peter or old/new Gamora. It won't be Groot again. Mantis is safe. Nebula is probably fine. And I don't think they'll kill off Rocket because I think he has the most potential to spin off into other movies. That leaves Drax. I think he's going to die for two big reasons. For one, I think he's the character whose death would really hurt the most because of his popularity, and the fact that his story is mainly over. His whole thing was killing Thanos to avenge his family's death. And now Thanos is done, that leaves him able to die saving the rest of the team without any unfinished business. Now, there are rumors that Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 would reveal that Drax's family could still be alive, but that's all still up in the air at the moment. If that's the case, then maybe he'll just be written out with a happy ending. But if that was just a wild rumor, then I would bet money that Drax turns invisible permanently. You know, because he's dead? That one could have been better. Nick Fury is finally getting the spotlight in his Secret Invasion television show, but is it gearing up to give him a proper hero send-off? With all the twists and turns that are sure to come in that event series, it feels like a big enough story that would have major ramifications going forward. For that series to really give us a major punch in the gut at the end, I think Nick Fury's death would be shocking. Plus, if he did die, it would be one of those things where we're all left wondering if his death was real or not. He's pretty adept at faking his own death and living off the grid, so I could see him pull another situation where he maybe dies vaguely, leaving CBR enough material to make dozens of videos explaining why he's either still alive in Tahiti or absolutely dead as a doornail. Thor's character went through a major rejuvenation thanks to Thor Ragnarok. Sure, Thor was always fun, but that third film totally leaned into Chris Hemsworth's natural comedic timing and was basically Taika Waititi'd. Which pains me to say, I think the Asgardian is going to pass through the gates of Valhalla sooner rather than later. His next movie, Thor: Love and Thunder, will introduce a new mighty Thor in Jane Foster. And after that's done, will there honestly be a place for OG Thor? Because yeah, I get it. I love this new version of the Thor character. He not only is the funniest character in the MCU, but he's also been through the ringer and has suffered, I think, more than anyone. It's definitely between him and Wanda for sure, but it's because he's so interesting that I think he should die. I think Mighty Thor deserves a chance in the spotlight, and I don't think Jane could ever truly take center stage while Thor is still walking around. What do you think? Hulk has been done dirty in the MCU. Thanks to a complicated rights issue, we never got another solo Hulk movie with Mark Ruffalo, and I think that hurt the character in the long run. His small appearances were fine, but it felt like overall his story was leading to a resolution that we just never got to see on screen. And now, to put it bluntly, the MCU has moved past the Hulk. They already adapted the Planet Hulk storyline as close as they could in Thor Ragnarok. And now that they'll have a new awesome star in She-Hulk, Bruce Banner just doesn't have a place in the MCU anymore. Why not give him an epic send-off in the She-Hulk TV show rather than just have him be a supporting, fading character over the next few years? A Hulk death would give him something truly great to end on. Can you believe that if 2020 didn't implode in on itself, that we'd be getting close to the 1-year anniversary of the Black Widow movie? Originally scheduled for May of 2020, us fans have had to sit and just watch the Black Widow trailers on repeat to satisfy our desire to see this movie. And there's one thing that's at least clear to me. Red Guardian will not be making it out of Black Widow alive. Let's discuss why. He's a lovable, supporting character who looks like a major scene stealer and is playing a washed-up hero who wants to prove he's still in his prime and can make a difference. That's like the standard recipe for heartbreaking character death in a movie. Already I see a situation where after thinking he's missed a step, he gets an opportunity to save everyone he loves by sacrificing himself. Plus, wouldn't Red Guardian be a character who would join that final fight against Thanos in Endgame? Why didn't we see him there? I rest my case. Hank Pym started the Ant-Man franchise as a grouchy old man who had a strained relationship with his daughter and thought his wife was dead. But after 2 movies, he not only has a great relationship with his daughter Hope, but he successfully rescued Janet from the quantum realm. I think it would be alright if Hank Pym didn't survive the 3rd Ant-Man movie. Think about it. Ant-Man 3 promises to introduce Kang the Conqueror to the MCU, who definitely has the potential to be one of the next big villains of the franchise. What better way to really show off how evil Kang can be than having him kill off an Ant-Man character? Hank fits the bill as the character who is both important enough to make an impact to the narrative, but not disrupt things too much. Okay, I get it. Vision technically died at the end of Phase 3 in Infinity War. I mean, like, he really died. Not just once, but twice. First, Wanda had to kill him in order to destroy the Infinity Stone, and if that wasn't enough, Thanos brought him back just like a minute later just to kill him all over again. Like, I definitely think that's the most brutal death in the MCU has ever given us, don't you think? But Phase 4 has officially kicked off with WandaVision, where Vision is seemingly alive and well. Of course, if you've watched WandaVision, which I know we all have, then it's clear things aren't as easy or clear-cut as they seem. As we race toward the finale of that show, it's clear that Vision will probably have to die again by the end, bringing his grand total up to 3 times. I kind of hope this pattern never stops, and every few movies Vision is brought back to life only to die in increasingly comical ways. Like the 8th time he's resurrected, let's say Hulk sits on him. The 9th time, someone removes his AA batteries, etc., so on and so forth. I'll be honest, I almost put Loki on this list, but then the God of Mischief hopped out of a time portal and threatened to, quote, roast me over an open flame if I suggested he die again. I guess he didn't like it that much the first time around.